Human! This is my Undertale review. Visit it whenever you like. Somehow, in the year 2025, I played through and streamed Undertale with basically nothing spoiled for me. My elevator pitch review for Undertale is, it's fun, I loved the characters, the music is excellent, the gameplay wasn't like anything else I've ever played, enjoyed the game the whole way through, loved it from start to finish. Undertale is an RPG with pseudo-turn-based, psudo-bullet-hell combat sections where you can choose to kill or spare monsters. Undertale was developed by tobyfox and released in 2015, a whole decade ago from today's video. It's truly a unique gem of a game and absolutely worth picking up and playing. You play as a human child who has fallen into the underground, a place where monsters were banished after a war with humans. As you play, you'll encounter a plethora of charming personalities. The story will change depending on if you kill or spare characters. But the writing and humor are probably my favorite parts of the game. I've never laughed so hard at a rock. Whoa there, partner. Who said you could push me around, So you're asking me to move over? Okay, just for you, pumpkin. You want me to move some more? Alright, how's this? That was the wrong direction. Okay, I think I got it. That's ridiculous. Oh! How could you? Go back. You wanted me to stay there? You're giving me a real workout. I strongly suggest avoiding spoilers for this game, so I'm going to suggest you click to the next video chapter here if you want to keep as much of the game from being spoiled as possible. I'll be as tactful as possible so there's not a crazy high risk, but having gone into the game basically blind, I'd encourage anyone else to do the same if you can. So go ahead and skip to the gameplay section now if you don't want anything being slightly potentially spoiled. To describe the first few hours of the game, you wake up in the underground and meet a dick of a flower who tells you, "Down here you want to collect the friendliness pellets." So we're starting off with betrayal. Cool. You get saved by this motherly goat monster named Toriel, who reminded me of my mom, making it all the more horrifying what I actually did on my Twitch livestream. Look, I wasn't sure how to get past that section, and accidents happened. Anyway, Toriel does some hand-holding, literally, guiding you through some puzzles. You meet some wacky, adorable monsters, and suddenly you'll find yourself out of tutorial land. Oh no. I just realized Toriel is short for tutorial. This game, will the jokes never end? Anyway, you'll find yourself out of tutorial land and into the game properly, where you'll promptly meet the two most well-known characters of the franchise. The skeleton Papyrus, who always speaks in caps and has tons of energy, and Sans, who is too cool for this reality. You'll encounter more characters as you play. If you're really a busy bee, you'll do a fair bit of backtracking too. Thankfully, there are fast travels to get back to Snowdin from the final boss within minutes. I might have needed to go back to get some healing items right before the final boss, and figured, screw it, let's go all the way back to Snowdin and figure out what this mystery key unlocks. A final note before we move on to gameplay, I was astounded by the interactions with the characters and how there would be callbacks to stuff like what my character was wearing, what I had said, who I had killed. It really blew my mind when there were small interactions with characters where I'd do something slightly different and it would get a completely different dialogue text. Again, top-notch writing in this game. It is so good. There are two parts to the gameplay. The RPG part, where you walk around and interact with the characters and the world as a whole, solve puzzles, buy healing items, move from map to map, look at crossword puzzles, etc. The other part of the game is the combat. While walking around, you will sometimes run into random encounters or fight bosses where you select from the typical looking turn-based JRPG menu to fight, act, item, and mercy. Mercy's a bit of a new one, but remember in Undertale you don't need to kill monsters. You can spare them and beat the game without having killed any monsters. This is called a pacifist run. But you can also kill them all on what is called a genocide run. Typically, if you're going to kill stuff, you'll select the fight menu, and then select your target, then make timed button presses to do damage. But if you're trying to spare stuff, you'll usually need to pick the act menu, then make selections until the spare choice turns yellow in the mercy menu, symbolizing the monster no longer wants to fight. When you're done attacking or acting, it'll be the monster's turn and they'll attack. This is when you experience the bullet hell part of the game. For this part of the game, you control your heart, which represents your soul, and move it around, usually within a small box, but that's not always how it works. You'll dodge friendliness pellets and other obstacles in an attempt to take as little damage as possible before it's your turn to attack again. Once again, I'm forgetting to mention graphics and music. Most of the time, I finish a review and realize, oh crap, I didn't mention anything about how the game looked or if the music was any good or not. I don't get hung up over graphics too much usually. Sometimes higher and higher quality and detail in video games overcomplicates the composition and detracts from how the world can look. But that's not really related to today's video. Undertale's visuals reminded me of good old Game Boy games. I played Game Boy at a developmental part of my life, so there's no negatives in saying Nintendo Game Boy looking visuals. It also means that the game should run smoothly because it's not prioritizing state-of-the-art graphics on 4K monitors or whatever the fanciest graphics settings are these days. Regarding music in Undertale, the music is the only thing I technically had spoiled for me because YouTubers really like using tobyfox's music, really just all of it. But that's because it's just that dang good. In conclusion, playing Undertale was great. It has a lot of replay values, so a single playthrough might take you anywhere from 7 to 14 hours, depending on how easily you get sidetracked. You'll definitely want to replay it to see different dialogue interactions you'll have with the characters. And who knows, maybe there are more secrets to be discovered. I'll never tell. Even the Steam store's description and text lean into the theming of the game, with listed features like killing is unnecessary. Negotiate out of danger using the unique battle system. Time your attacks for extra damage, then dodge enemy attacks in a style reminiscent of top-down shooters. Original art and soundtrack brimming with personality. Soulful characters, rich story with an emphasis on humor. Created mostly by one person. Become friends with all the bosses. At least 5 dogs. You can date a skeleton. Now there are 6 dogs? Maybe you won't want to date the skeleton. I thought I found a 7th dog, but it was actually just the 3rd dog. If you play this game, can you count the dogs for me? I'm not good at it. Trust me when I say, you're gonna want to date the skeleton. And that's it for this video. I don't want to say anything more because I want to keep this review as spoiler-free as possible. I can see why Undertale was so incredibly popular when it first came out, and I'm glad I finally got around to playing it for myself.
Even if it was, like, 10 years after it was released, but who's keeping track?
I'm Atratzu, thanks for watching this review. Usually I try to suggest a related video to watch after this, but I've got nothing. So instead I'll ask for comments with suggestions for anything like Undertale. I know Earthbound was an inspiration for Undertale, and I see tobyfox has made another game called Deltarune, so I'll eventually need to play that one too. Wait, when was Deltarune released? 2025? Perfect. See you all in 2035 for my review on Deltarune. Anyway, thanks again, take care, stay determined.